vpod.ai, your source for the latest information. This deep dive is sponsored by Stonefly, your trusted solution provider and advisor in enterprise storage, backup, disaster recovery, hyperconverged, and VMware, Hyper-V, Proxmox Cluster, AI servers, and public and private cloud. Check out stonefly.com or email your project requirements to sales@stonefly.com.
So today we're going to plunge into something that's, well, it's everywhere, but you probably don't think about it much.
Oh, yeah? What's that?
Standardized color. You know how companies get that exact shade right, like the perfect yellow for a logo,
Yeah.
or maybe the blue on a product box?
Right. Yeah, it seems simple, but getting it consistent is surprisingly complicated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it can actually involve a pretty complex, sometimes expensive system.
It really is amazing when you think about it. Like, take a cereal box, right? If you look really, really close,
Yeah.
the solid colors, they aren't really solid. It's just an illusion made with tiny little dots.
Oh, right. CMYK, is that it? Or half-toning? Precisely. CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, black. That's how most printing has worked for ages. It's the standard for photos and complex images.
Okay, that makes sense for pictures, but what if you need, like, a really pure, solid block of color? Something super vibrant that those dots maybe can't quite hit consistently.
And that is where things get interesting. That's the challenge we're digging into.
So before there was a standard system, how did people even manage? Trying to tell a printer what color you wanted must have been rough.
Oh, it was a major headache. Seriously. Imagine trying to describe a specific green. Is it bright green, muted, like grass, like a forest, maybe like a lime?
Huh, yeah, totally subjective.
Completely. And it had real business consequences. There's the famous example of Kodak, their yellow packaging.
Oh yeah, what about it?
Well, sometimes it would come out slightly different depending on who printed it. And the interesting thing was, people apparently thought the brighter yellow boxes meant the film inside was fresher.
No way. So
Yeah.
the color variation actually affected how people saw the product?
It seems like it could have, yeah. It just shows how important that consistency is.
Good.
Back then, a designer might literally have to carry a physical color swatch to the printer.
Wow.
And then the printer would use their own, secret recipe book for mixing inks. Nothing was shared across the industry. So getting the same color twice was, well, often just luck.
Okay, so clearly there was a big problem here, a need for some kind of shared language for color.
Absolutely. And that's where, in the 1950s, a guy named Larry Herbert comes into the picture. He was working at a printing company.
Which later became Pantone, right?
That's the one.
Yeah.
He saw this frustration everywhere and realized, okay, we need a standard.
Was he the first person to try and standardize color?
Not exactly the first to think about it. There were earlier systems, like the Munsell system, and some for textiles, too. But none had really caught on across all industries for precise duplication.
Why not? What was different about those?
Well, some used apparently quite fanciful and nonsensical names for colors. Not very scientific, They didn't offer that repeatable precision needed for commercial printing.
So what was Herbert's big idea? What made the Pantone system stick?
His key innovation was the Pantone matching system, PMS. Basically, he created a book, a guide, with loads of colors. Each one got a unique number.
Like a code.
Exactly, a code. And crucially, a specific formula, like a recipe, showing exactly how to mix the inks to get that color.
So instead of saying make it royal blue.
You'd say, for example, Pantone 300, and you'd also specify if it was for coated paper like glossy or uncoated paper, because that makes a huge difference to how the color looks.
Right, C for coated, U for uncoated. I think I've seen those.
That's it. So with that number and letter, any printer anywhere with a Pantone guide knew exactly what color you meant and exactly how to make it. It was genius, really. Numbers as a universal color language.
And people must have loved it. Did it take off quickly?
Oh, yeah. The first guides came out in 1963, maybe 500 colors. And they sold like crazy. Something like 200,000 copies in 5 years.
Wow.
And by the early 70s, it was already being used in over 40 countries. It just shows how badly the industry needed something like this.
And then came the whole boom in branding and corporate identity. That must have just poured fuel on the fire for Pantone.
Absolutely spot on. Suddenly, every company needed their specific color to be the same everywhere. On signs, on products, and ads, consistency became king for building a recognizable brand.
So Pantone was just perfectly placed.
Perfectly. I mean, think about it. Even characters like Superman and Batman have official PMS colors tied to their branding. It locks in that visual identity.
That's incredible. And did Pantone stick just to paper printing?
Nope, they were smart. They expanded into guides for textiles, for plastics, basically anywhere consistent color was needed. And then a really key move in the 80s.
What was that?
They license their color system to software companies.
Ah, so designers using computers could pick Pantone colors right there in programs like what? Photoshop?
Yeah,
Illustrator?
exactly. That move really cemented their place. Now the designers creating the stuff digitally were using the same language as the printers producing it physically.
Yeah.
Today, there are like over 10,000 Pantone colors.
Okay, so let's talk about the business side. Pantone doesn't actually sell the ink, right?
Correct. That's a common misconception.
Right.
They sell the system. Primarily, they sell those color guides, the physical books.
And those aren't cheap, I gather.
No, they're definitely an investment. A single guide can be hundreds of dollars. The whole set, we're talking thousands, I think maybe around $9,000.
Whoa. How
And this, they
can...
actually recommend you replace the guides every year or 18 months.
Why? Do the colors change?
But yeah, subtly. Paper yellows over time. Inks can fade slightly under light.
Hmm.
So to guarantee accuracy, they say you need fresh guides.
Huh. That's quite a recurring revenue stream for them.
It certainly is. But they also make money licensing the formulas to the ink manufacturers who actually make the ink and licensing the digital palettes to software companies like Adobe.
So they protect this system pretty fiercely. Trademarks, copyrights.
Oh, definitely. They even won a big lawsuit back in '68 against a competitor who tried to copy their system. That really established their IP as unique and protected. It's not like CMYK or RGB, which are more open standards. Pantone is a specific corporate entity managing its proprietary system.
Okay, so why pay the premium? What makes Pantone colors worth the cost of the guides and the potentially more expensive inks?
Well, a big part is the visual result. Pantone colors often look brighter, cleaner, more vibrant than what you can easily get with CMYK
Why is that?
because they're mixed from a wider range of base inks. I think it's 11 base inks for Pantone compared to just the 4 in CMYK. This gives them a much larger gamut, which is the total range of colors they can reproduce.
Okay, so more base ingredients means more potential color outcomes and often brighter ones.
Pretty much. So CMYK is great for photos with lots of subtle shades blending together. But if you need one specific solid, punchy color like a company logo, Pantone is often the way to go for consistency and pop.
But it costs more.
Yeah, using Pantone inks can be, say, 15 to 25% more expensive than just running a standard CMYK job. Plus the cost of the guides and software access we talked about.
Yet big companies still pay it.
For many large corporations, yeah. That perfect color match, that brand consistency, is non-negotiable. The extra cost is just factored in as necessary for maintaining their brand identity.
But it sounds like even though it's essential, maybe designers aren't always thrilled with Pantone's dominance.
That's fair to say. There's definitely some frustration out there. It's often seen as
Yeah.
like a necessary evil, almost. Because they are the standard, you kind of have to use them to ensure things print correctly.
What kind of frustrations are we talking about?
Well, a really big one flared up in 2022. Pantone changed how their colors were accessed in Adobe software, like Photoshop and Illustrator.
Oh, I remember hearing something about that. What happened?
Basically, the Pantone color libraries used to just be included with the Adobe subscription. Then, they shifted it, so you needed a separate additional Pantone subscription to access the up-to-date palettes via a plugin.
Ah, so designers suddenly had to pay extra for something they used to get included.
Exactly, and that caused a huge backlash. A lot of designers felt like they were being squeezed, forced to pay this extra fee for an essential tool.
Yeah, I can see why that would annoy people. How's the new system working out?
Mixed reviews, I'd say. Many users found the old integrated system easier to use than the new plugin. There was a feeling of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and then charge us for the fix.
So it creates this feeling of being locked in. You need Pantone for industry compatibility, but you resent the cost and maybe the perceived lack of competition.
That sums it up pretty well for a segment of the design community, yeah. And the cost of the physical guides, especially needing to replace them, that's a real burden for freelancers or small studios. Even just buying one little replacement color chip if yours gets damaged can be like 20 bucks.
Ouch. But despite all that, the core promise still holds value for many, right? That guarantee of consistency.
Absolutely. I mean, think about a big project. Maybe packaging designed in New York, brochures printed in London, and merchandise made in Asia. How do you ensure the brand color is the same everywhere?
Pantone.
Pantone is the shared language. It ensures the design intent makes it to the final product, wherever that's made. So yeah, well, you could try to work without it.
You risk inconsistent colors, which could really damage a brand.
Exactly. It's a big risk for professional work.
And presumably, Pantone invests a lot in keeping those guides consistent themselves. Their whole reputation depends on it.
Oh, for sure. They have color experts, scientists working constantly to ensure that, say, Pantone 286C printed today matches the Pantone 286C printed last year. That quality control is a huge part of what people are paying for.
Yeah.
Apparently, something like half their revenue comes just from selling those guides.
So looking ahead, Pantone's been dominant for what, over 60 years now?
Hmm.
Is that likely to change? Could there be alternatives, like an open source system?
It's an interesting thought. People talk about open source possibilities.
Hmm.
But the reality is, Pantone is so deeply woven into the fabric of the entire design and print world. The workflows, the equipment calibration, the shared knowledge.
It's a massive network effect.
Exactly. Dislodging that would be incredibly difficult. It's also worth remembering that Pantone itself was acquired back in 2007 by X-Rite.
Oh, the color measurement company.
That's them. And X-Rite also owns the Munsell color system, that earlier one we mentioned. So they have a pretty significant hold on the whole color standards landscape.
So probably not going away anytime soon.
Doesn't look like it now.
It really is fascinating how something as basic as color, getting a specific shade right, relies on this incredibly complex, commercially driven system.
It truly is. And while Pantone is this specific system for identifying and reproducing color,
Yeah.
we shouldn't forget color itself, right? It's fundamental. It affects our mood, how we connect with things. Pantone is just a tool, really,
Yeah.
albeit a very powerful one, for bringing specific color intentions into the real world.
So the next time you see a product, a logo, anything with that perfect, consistent color, maybe give a little nod to the complex journey it took, from a number in a book to the thing you're holding.
Yeah, it's a whole hidden world built on needing precision, needing that shared language in a world that's so visual.
Makes you wonder what other everyday things have these kinds of intricate systems humming away underneath, doesn't it?
Definitely. Lots of hidden structures shaping how we experience the world.
vpod.ai, your source for the latest information. This deep dive was sponsored by Stonefly, your trusted solution provider and advisor in enterprise storage, backup, disaster recovery, hyperconverged in VMware, Hyper-V, Proxmox cluster, AI servers, and public and private cloud. Check out stonefly.com or email your project requirements to sales@stonefly.com.